On this week's episode, it's part one of our fall movie preview. Why is Doug so mad at Xbox? And should Amazon Prime just be thought of as a customer retention tool? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source, thanking you so much for listening to all of our great programming. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the leading man when it comes to everything going on at Humanity Media and also the great Topicocalypse program. You got to check out all the great things going on in his world at Humanity Media on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also Topicocalypse on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's my good friend. It is the man himself. It is Josh Peterson. What's going on, man?
I feel like I need some theme music here. Not
the leading man. That's right. The leading man, indeed.
Yeah. Just a sick like guitar shred, just going.
Or like in the old movie, I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, when he had the group that was actually walking right behind him, and as far as doing the theme song that was right behind him as he was walking down the street.
Yes, that's it. That's it right there. Or that cool was the music from Reservoir Dogs when they're following that guy down the street, and Steve Buscemi, I think it was. They had that cool background music playing.
Oh, Steve Buscemi?
Yeah. Is that how you say his name?
Buscemi, I think. Buscemi.
It's Airheads, man. Classic movie.
There you go. One of Adam Sandler's finest. Although, finest in Adam Sandler you know what I mean. Anyways, it's going to be a great show we have for you today. We've got a lot to talk about. In a little bit, we have Rob McCallum standing by in the middle of the Cosmic Crossfire. He's got some gripes to talk about when it comes to Amazon Prime. Speaking of gripes, later on in the broadcast, Douglas Hoyabu of Retro City Games has got a lot of gripes when it comes to Xbox and their recent decision in regards to a bundled subscription plan. After that, we've got Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast, which again is now airing on the Pop Culture Cosmos podcast channel. You just check it out today on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and so many other different outlets. His show is on every week talking fantasy football. We've got a segment of it for you here tonight. He's going to get you a little bit primed up for the season upcoming. And then also we're going to be talking a little bit later on in the show about Anthem. A little bit more was shown off at PAX West this past weekend. We talk a little bit more about Anthem and how it's progressing. Is it something that is getting a little bit more on our radars? Is it something that's getting a little bit more on our radar? Or is it something that we're still having a little bit of a Mass Effect Andromeda hangover? But we've got, like I said, an awesome show lined up for you today. Want to make sure that we let everybody know out there. We've got a lot of stuff coming in the next few weeks that we want to talk about, not only as far as our premieres, of a lot of great stuff that we've got for you, but also that we're going to be talking a lot about some fall and winter previews in movies. We also got television and streaming upcoming. But I just want to let you know as well that our good friends at Vitabrace are going to be helping us out with some of these future projects. Josh, can you give me the lowdown real quick on what Vitabrace does and why it is so cool for any gamer out there that's looking to get an edge as far as their gaming competition is concerned?
Right. So Vitabrace is actually made by the Miracle Fruit Oil. I ran into one of the representatives at E3. He gave me a sample of the product, and we started chatting after that. So what the Vitabrace is designed for gamers to put around the wrist while they play, and it's supposed to make you less tired, fatigued, sore, and stiff. It's supposed to take care of all that stuff. So it gives you the hands of the youth, more endurance, grip, strength, range of motion, mobility, stability, better manual dexterity, coordination, precision, and movements. And it does work. I have tried it. while playing a little bit of Forza Horizon this past week, and I had the bracelet on. It does work. Here's a
For
little
all you Fortnite streamers out there, it might be a really big thing to get into as well.
This is true. This is true. If you spend hours in front of your keyboard or your console, this is definitely something you want to look into. So, just one more fact: this is what they Vitabrace is the world's first and only high performance wristband clinically proven to improve manual performance and reduce fatigue and stiffness. So, if you're one of those people get hand cramps when you're playing games and you would like those hand cramps to stop, definitely check out this Vitabrace, and we'll have more on that later in the show.
Absolutely. And we also just want to let them know that we thank them so much for doing a lot of stuff with us upcoming. They're going to be out there giving us a hand in a lot of our projects upcoming. So we definitely cannot thank them enough for doing that, along with our good friends as well from Retro City Games, Rob McCallum Films, and Wheelie Q Barbecue and Wheelie Q Barbecue Sauces and Rubs, and FX Unit Yuki. Just cannot thank all of them enough for all the things that they do for us and have done for us over the past few episodes as well. But again, it is our fall winter preview time for a lot of great stuff. Over the next few episodes, we're going to be actually talking about a lot of things that are coming out over the next few months, including movies on our Monday and our Friday show. And it all starts with the months of September and October in this episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos that I really want to talk about. And it pretty much starts off this weekend coming up with major releases, including The Nun, the new horror movie that I know Jason Todd Feinberg of Honeyqueen really it's keying in on as a movie that he thinks of any of the horror movies coming out that he thinks might be the best of the bunch. Peppermint, which is going to be an action thriller coming up with Jennifer Garner. She's actually in a role looking for vengeance in a movie that's kind of that's a different take on the action thriller revenge genre. And I think it actually
might anyone too if I were to tell you that it's directed by or is made by the producers of Taken. So there's that.
There is that. So definitely the revenge factor is there and they're big time. This might be something a lot of people might want to look into starting this weekend as well. And in a little bit over 1,000 theaters as well. God Bless the Broken Road. God Bless the Broken Road. That's also coming out on the 7th. On the 14th, The Predator. This is something that you and I have talked about at length already about with Fox, the Fox properties being sold to Disney, whether or not this is going to get a sustained life as far as the IP is concerned. A lot of it is going to be dependent on what it does with this movie, and that is coming out on the 14th. A Simple Favor, Unbroken Path to Redemption, and White Boy Rick. Those are also wide releases on the 14th as well. On the 21st, you have Fahrenheit 11/9. That is another documentary from Michael Moore where, well, he's going after a few people this time again. Well, once again, and with his movies, he's always trying to make something. He's always trying to bring in a message as far as that's concerned. So this is another documentary in that realm by Michael Moore, and that's Fahrenheit 11/9, and that comes out on the 21st of September. You've got The House with a Clock. You got The House with a Clock in Its Walls. That's coming out on the 21st. I believe that one's with Jack Black, if I'm not mistaken. Jack Black and also Cate Blanchett. That's coming out on the 21st, and Life Itself is also coming out on the 21st as well. That's something coming out with in cooperation with Amazon Studios. So is there going to be a tie-in with the actual Amazon Prime or whatnot? We're going to be talking more about what Amazon Prime is doing coming up in the Cosmic Crossfire. On the 28th is another horror movie, Hellfest, Little Women, Night School, and Smallfoot. That's what's on the queue for the 28th of September. On coming up in October 5th is A Star is Born, and a lot of good word came out on that. That's Bradley Cooper's, I believe, his directorial debut. It stars Lady Gaga and him in the movie. It's the fourth rendition of this story, A Star is Born. A lot of great reviews from it so far coming out of the Venice Film Festival. So a lot of people may be looking for that movie to shine as it gets closer and closer to the Oscar season. And Venom also comes out October the 5th. You and I, Josh, have talked ad nauseum about Venom. We're still not hooked on it yet. We think this may be something that Sony may be regretting at this point in time, but hopefully we will be wrong and it will prove to be another classic anti-hero comic book movie that actually does have a good payoff. On the 12th of October, you've got Bad Times at the El Royale. This one, as far as the word of mouth, is all over the place. It's a movie that has Chris Hemsworth in it and a few other stars, and John Hamm and a few other stars as well. Kind of an off the beaten path type movie. So if you want to check out the trailers, if you want to check it out, you might want to check out the trailer for that. First Man, that's also something as well that's been all over the place as far as the opinions on it. I know it also debuted recently at the Venice Film Festival. That one starring Ryan Gosling. I believe it when it concerns the early space program, and Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween. That one's coming out that one's coming out almost that one's coming out just a few weeks after The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Very similar in that realm. So it's kind of maybe it's a situation where you have two movies that are kind of similar that are coming out in close proximity, and it looks like maybe only one might be a successful venture from it. So we'll have to wait and see which one that is. That's coming out on October 12th as well. And then you have coming up after that, you have on the 19th, you've got the newest rendition of Halloween starring Jamie Lee Curtis that takes place, 30, 40 years, I believe, after the original. Actually, well, it takes place 40 years it takes place roughly 40 years after the original events of Halloween, with her actually still in the towns, but trying to, I guess, prepare herself for the second coming of Michael Myers. So a lot of people are looking towards that one to be a big hit over the Halloween season. Then you also have on the 19th of October, The Hate U Give and Serenity. No, it's not that Serenity. This is a new movie called Serenity starring Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. Then also on the 26th, you have Hunter Killer, Indivisible, and guess what, Josh? Johnny English strikes again. As if you didn't expect it enough, as if you weren't asking for it already. Rowan Atkinson is back playing Johnny English in the movie Johnny English Strikes Again, and that is coming out October 26, 2018. Giving you the list that I did, my friend. What are your thoughts on some of the movies that are coming out over the course of the next 2 months? Is there any movies you are specifically targeting for, and is there still some that are kind of like maybe leaving a bad taste in your mouth at this point in time?
Here, you kind of bulldoze through the list here. Let me go and tell you what I'm looking forward to. The Nun is something I'm definitely interested in. I love the Conjuring and Conjuring 2. I didn't see the last Annabelle movie, but
I know I talked about Goosebumps, and also I know I talked about Goosebumps 2 and the similarities to what we had talked about when it comes to a house with a clock on the wall. That one is starring Jack Black. Goosebumps, the original, had Jack Black in it, but the Goosebumps 2 this time around is not going to have him involved in this project.
Right, yeah, and that's probably why it's not happening, because there's probably scheduling conflicts there. But what's cool about House with a Clock in Its Walls, it's the first movie directed by Eli Roth that doesn't feature people being impaled or having their eyes poked out with Bunsen burners and stuff like that. So good for him. He's trying something new here, genre wise.
But you had talked about The Nun. I think, like Jason Todd Feinberg from Hunting Queen, he was saying of any of the movies that came out as far as the horror genre is concerned for the rest of the year, and that included the remake, or that included the spiritual successor to Halloween, he is pointing towards The Nun as being the biggest hit of them all. I saw the preview in the theaters, and I had not seen it ahead of time on YouTube. And as my wife can attest to, it really shook me up when I saw that preview. It really got me on that one.
Well, did you know that they pulled the ads off TV? Or are they not officially off TV, but they had to shorten it down to like 15 seconds because it was scaring people too much?
No, I wasn't aware of that, but I can see why. At the very tail end of the trailer, it got me as far as where they placed the jump scare. It was a really good one, and it came out of nowhere seemingly, and it just I can see why that the commercial was pulled or at least shortened to an extent, because that jump scare, if you see it, the trailer in the theaters, it really is something that sets you up good if you're really into horror flicks.
Yeah, yeah, and like that's why there's always been like a level of realism to the Conjuring franchise, and that's what one of the things I'm kind of excited about to see.
And that's what it is. It's related to the Conjuring franchise in full. Could you go more into that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Nun was oh shoot, what's the Warrens. So the wife would always see this apparition of this lady, this nun, and they talked about it a little bit in The Conjuring too, but they didn't really elaborate too much on who she was. And then now in this movie, we're actually getting to see how this legend started and all that stuff. And apparently, it's a I don't know how true it is, but it's based on stuff that more or less allegedly happened. So that's what always makes these movies a little bit more terrifying.
But yes, you went back also as well. You talked about Eli Roth directing it. Would you classify it a kids movie? Because I'm not sure if with even the kind of subject matter that it has and the way it looks on the trailers, would you still classify it as kind of a kids movie, or is it so similar to the previous Goosebumps movie that you would probably put it in there, even though it barely makes it out as maybe a 10 to 13-year-old as far as the starting point is concerned?
Well, I call it a kids movie in the same way I would classify like a book like Goosebumps, or something like the Bailey School Kids, or one of those minimal franchises. I think that this is in that vein, but maybe it's not directly a kids movie, but it's PG-13. It stars a kid, and looks like it has some interesting hijinks in it. So I'm kind of labeling it as maybe more of a family movie than something that grown people go to see by themselves just because they want to. Like I'm interested in it, but I probably won't watch it till it comes out on digital or Blu-ray or whatever.
When it comes to Peppermint, which is coming out this weekend, is this a movie that could hit with audiences in the same way that John Wick has, to the point where it could be a female version of John Wick? Because from the trailers and the scenes that I've seen already, it looks like it's shaping up to be just that, as far as a revenge action thriller flick that really has something going for it from a different angle. It spins a different point of view on it, but has no less action and suspense, and as far as a lot of gunplay as well.
Yeah, it's basically Alias the movie, but I'm interested. Like I saw the trailer for it yesterday. I went to go see the Meg's awful movie, by the way. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, no, I like the idea of her, like I mean, I don't like the idea of her family getting murdered, but I like the idea of her going away and not being able to get justice, and then she goes away to train and just makes everyone pay. It reminds me of like a mixture of John Wick and Law Abiding Citizen. And I'm excited. Like I don't know if I'll get to catch it in theaters, but it's definitely on my it's on my radar.
On mine as well. I think she has been a great actress, doing a lot of different roles over the years. Some of the movies she's put herself into, as far as romantic comedies or faith-based movies or indie projects, may have underused her talents a little bit. Maybe she's just been okay with doing those type of roles. I think she hasn't been challenged as much as she has as she should have been over the past few years with some of her movie role choices, because I think she can be still a top drawing actress as far as within the movie genre. So I'm glad to see that she's in a performance that's really outside of the box, since something that she has done in a long time in that similar type of vein, since the superhero movie, since Elektra, I guess, would probably have to be something that's even close to what she's done since then.
Yeah, and I think that she kind of has the same stigma around her that Taylor Kitsch currently has. You know, they were in big budget movies that didn't do so well, and then, you know, they tried to do another comeback again, didn't do so well. Although Taylor Hitch was good, or Kitsch was good in what was that movie with Kevin Costner where he was the assassin? You know what I'm talking about?
No, Kevin Costner's played like at least 2 or 3 occasions in recent years.
Kevin Costner. Sorry. Shoot. Michael Keaton was in it.
Oh yeah, the assassin one with that other guy. Yeah, it was actually came out about a year ago this time.
Yeah, like he played a decent villain. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, I think that she became one of those actors or actresses that people kind of want to distance themselves from because they weren't exactly selling tickets. So I feel like this is the road to redemption for her, and I hope that works out because I, for one, actually think that she's a very good actress. Like I think not just because she's easy on the eyes, but like she does. I know she does a lot of stunts. Like she does a lot of her own stunts, and she's not like a nightmare to work with like Katherine Heigl, I hear. But yeah, I'm like I think she's not even past her prime. I don't even think she's reached her prime. So I think there's a lot of potential to be had from her.
Well, like I said, she's in the recent years she's been relegated to movies that I don't think have gotten the best out of her, and that she has a lot more to give to the movie industry and a lot more to give to movie fans. And I hope this is the start of it, that she'll be able to get roles from this point forward that she's more deserving of. And this could really be something special, that in the realm of a John Wick type deal, where it's a lower budget movie, but yet yields a nice tidy profit and could see sequels going forward. There's some also other great movies in September that we need to talk about. Obviously, The Predator, that's coming on the 14th. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that next week when it comes out. But with The Predator, I know they came out with a trailer. What was the final trailer? Do you really think that's going to bring in audiences? Because like I said, a lot is riding on this IP when it comes to this particular movie and the future of the franchise.
Okay. No, I like if this is if Disney's going to do to these movies what everyone's thinking they're going to do, this is the last hurrah for Predator. So whether it's good or not, I think that that's enough to get people out to watch it. I hope people go to see it because that's going to improve the chances of it getting another one. But you know, in this case, it is kind of it's on it. This is the death throes of the Predator, no pun intended. It's the last. It might be our last chance to see an original Predator film in theaters. So I think that that's enough pool for me, especially to get me out to the movies to see this.
Rounding off September, I want to ask one thing, and we don't usually talk about documentaries unless it's a Rob McCallum documentary, but we don't usually go into detail on other documentaries. But Michael Moore, who is probably one of the most successful and most famous or infamous, however you like to say it, documentarians that are out there, he has had some success in the past with films such as Roger and Me, Bowling for Columbine, and Fahrenheit 9/11. But those movies took place at the earlier part of the century. It's been a few years where he has, even I guess Sicko, I guess, was also a semi-successful hit for him as well. When we talk about Michael Moore and the projects that he's done over the years, it's been a little while since he's really had a strong presence out there with a movie that really takes hold and captures the imagination of audiences. Do you think Fahrenheit 11? Do you think Fahrenheit 11/9 will be that film that might capture the attention for people, not just for him and his projects, but also documentaries as a whole as well?
Okay, you might have to edit this out, but I think Michael Moore is a talentless slob. He used to be good at what he did, but now he just kind of feeds on the whining of millennials, and I'm not a fan of that. And especially like something political, like I hate politics. I cannot stand them, but like something like this where it's going to divide people and make people upset, like I don't believe in those types of documentaries. So I am going to stay very far away from this movie.
I'm not exactly thinking that this is going to do so great either, because in recent weeks there has been a documentary release that is from the other side of the aisle, another point of view than what Michael Moore sees things as. And that movie didn't fare so well. And I just think at this point in time, maybe audiences are kind of getting sick of what they hear on a daily basis when it comes to the world of politics, and having to go ahead and just see it out on the big screen. I don't think it's really going to be something that they're going to key on in and of itself. So I think at this point in time, maybe it's been a little bit played out, but Michael Moore usually has a different slant on things. So
Yeah, but it's already like probably everything he's going to talk about has already been hit in the news, constantly in the news, on our social media feeds. Like there's no point. Like I can, stay home and be mad at politics for a lot less money, than spending $15 at the movie theaters.
plus there are documentaries out there already this year that are probably going to garner a ton more. I think the Mr. Rogers, isn't it Won't You Be My Neighbor? That has garnered such acclaim and such a such notoriety over the course of the year. That's one I still got to get to see and see. That one's on my radar. That one's on my radar, and I've got to see that one. I know for sure before the end of the year, because that could be something that could be on our best 10 list. So definitely looking forward to seeing that one. So I know that documentary, if anybody is going to choose to go see, it's going to be that one, and possibly not Fahrenheit 11/9, just because, like I said, people are getting a little bit tired of the political factor as a whole, and having to go ahead and make an effort to go out into the theater may not be something that people were wanting to do. When it comes to October, my friend, there's still a lot left to talk about. October, I know it all starts again with Venom. Has there been anything that's really garnered interest for you since we last talked and since we last spoke about when it comes to the Venom movie?
So this is what I keep telling people. I'm going to go see the movie, but right now I have absolutely no expectations for it. And I'm not excited about it, but I'm not displeased that it's out there. I'm just going to go see it, and I'm going to try to remain completely objective until the credits roll. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm curious to see what Tom Hardy does. I haven't liked what I've seen in the trailer so far, but I'm still going to go in with an open mind and hope that it surprises me. But what I'm tired of and what I don't want to see is all these announcements that even in with Sony and their Spider-Verse, and then you have DC and their separate timelines. I don't like that because it makes it feel like a waste of time to me. So I hope some way, in some form, that if Venom ends up being good, that it will be tied into the greater MCU in some fashion.
October also, like I said, has that same point in time, A Star is Born, and maybe that's something we'll have to talk about when it comes to Oscar time, because that one is getting a lot of good vibes coming out of the Venice Film Festival. We spoke already about Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween. Not really high on that one. I really don't think that's going to perform very well, especially after what we talked about when it comes to a house with a clock in the walls. Bad Times at the El Royale and First Man both have garnered like across the it just seems like opinions across the board. With First Man, people are saying it's not portraying the space race at that point in time very well. Others say it is. I'm not really sure. I guess we'll have to wait until the movie comes out. Bad Times at the El Royale, a lot of people are saying that this movie is maybe too small time, is too low key, and maybe it's just not, it's trying to be too cool, and it's trying to be something that it's not going to be able to live up to when it matches that theme, that look that it's trying to portray in the trailer. What are your thoughts on either of those movies? Have you given them any thought? Because like I said, Bad Times at the El Royale. For some reason, Chris Hemsworth got a hold of this movie, but is yet unable to go ahead and commit to Star Trek 4, which is kind of disappointing to me because that movie, I think Star Trek 4 would probably garner him a little bit more, I should say, fanfare than something that maybe like Bad Times at the El Royale, which could get swept under the rug really quickly.
Yeah, but I think at this point, Chris Hemsworth is looking to make a name for himself in the more artistic realm of filmmaking. I honestly have not seen any trailers at all for Bad Times at the El Royale, but you know, I'm willing to give it a shot. Like if it's got someone like Chris Hemsworth in it and John Hamm, like I'm willing to check it out and see what it's all about. But you know, I can't blame Chris Hemsworth for wanting to show that he has more depth as an actor than like some of these big budget films will allow him to show. What was the other one you were asking me about?
Oh, also as well, First Man. That's the one with Ryan Gosling, and they're portraying the space race. I believe with Neil Armstrong at that early point in time in the space race. I guess
That's the one that flat earthers are going crazy about.
pretty much at this point in time.
It's done in a studio. I mean, I guess this one was technically done in a studio, but
Yeah, they did this on location.
yeah, yeah. No, I haven't actually like the first time I heard about this movie was this weekend, so I gotta do some research into it. I imagine maybe they're trying to capture that space exploration feeling. Like we all
The
remember
Right Stuff did before. Yeah,
yeah, and we all remember what it's like being a kid and looking up into space and be like, oh, that'd be cool to be up in space one day. So I think they're trying to kind of PG-13 rating. I think they're trying to cash in on that nostalgia, hoping that it might re-spark the imagination of Americans all over America.
last thing I want to touch upon as far as the months of September and October in our first in our part one preview of what's upcoming in our fall preview for the movies. Remember, check out our winter movie preview on our Friday episode, the PCC Multiverse. Check that out on Friday when it hits. But for right now, we're talking the last major movie release of October, and that is Halloween, my friend. It's a new rendition of Halloween taking place in the same town 40 years later after the original events of the original Halloween. Your thoughts on Jamie Lee Curtis coming back to the iconic role she took up so many years ago when she scared audiences, and that movie still actually has some good points in it. I think it's one of the better horror movies that have ever been made. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the latest rendition of Halloween? It's not going to have John Carpenter directing, I don't believe. It's going to have somebody else, but I think John Carpenter may still be involved in some form or fashion.
I think he was on as a consultant, but no, this one's tough for me because I did personally enjoy the Rob Zombie renditions of Halloween. And I just like I loved the early horror movies. I love Friday the 13th, love Nightmare on Elm Street, but like Halloween, the Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween movies, just something I never really got into. So if I get into this, it's going to make me feel like I need to go back and watch all of them, and I just don't have time to do that. So maybe I'll jump on this one when it comes out, but I don't have any plans on seeing it in theater.
When I ask, I'll touch on I'll leave you with this. How much more interesting does it make it to find out that Danny McBride helped write the script for this movie?
Yeah, no, I heard about that. I don't know because he can't take things seriously. So I think that we're gonna get all of the tropes of a 90s, 80s, and 90s horror movie in a modern horror movie. So people are gonna it's definitely gonna hit for people looking for nostalgic horror movie viewers, that's for sure. But in my opinion, I think it's gonna end up scoring very little box office numbers, kind of like when they tried to remake Friday the 13th.
I think it's because of that nostalgia that it is going to actually score well with audiences, and it's coming out 12 days before Halloween. I think it gives it at least a 2 to 3 week window where it's going to score very nicely with audiences. kind of disagree with you on that there. I think of the movies that are out now, you mentioned The Nun and its relationship to The Conjuring. That could still be a big hit as far as for a horror movie and a horror movie genre. So I'm not trying to underestimate that one, but I think for me, since I'm in Vegas and we're always into playing odds, I think the odds are still pointing the way of this rendition of Halloween as being the favorite of any of the horror movies hitting on all cylinders at the box office because of the fact its placement is really nice just about 12 days before Halloween. I think it's really going to be able to scare up audiences. Even if it's halfway decent, I think it will actually garner a lot of interest. It doesn't have to be a good movie by any stretch. It just has to get the jump scares and get that word of mouth going. And if it does that, it could really close out the month strong for those that are so enthused into the Halloween franchise. Well, that's going to do it for our preview, part one at the movies. If you have any thoughts out there on what movies that you're going to see or that you want to know more about in the months of September and October, please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Also, we want to know, what movies do you really just are kind of turned off by and think are just going to be duds on arrival, but also movies you think are going to be a sleeper hit that people need to watch out for? Like I said, coming up later in the program, we have Douglas Hoyobu from Retro City Games. He is upset with Xbox, and he's going to elaborate as to why coming up on the back half of the show. Plus, Josh and I are going to be talking about Anthem. Is it still something that we need to get more interested in? Is it, they were showing off more this weekend at PAX. Is it something that's really got us more keyed in on, or is it something that we still kind of like standoffish about? Then we've also got Tyler Baker coming up later in the broadcast as well from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast. Some news and little tidbits for you as you gear up towards the NFL season. He gives you a little bit of the insight and a taste of the latest episode, the full episode of which is coming out on Tuesday to the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. All this and so much more, but it starts off right after the break with our good friend Rob McCallum coming up in the middle of the Cosmic Crossfire. He's a little bit upset about the future and what the status is of Amazon Prime, and he tells you why coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. I want to thank so much Rob McCallum, Tyler Baker, and Douglas Hoyobu for stopping by and talking to us on the show today. That's just so glad to have them once again appearing on a broadcast. If you want to make sure and know where we are playing at, because we're on radio 7 days a week on channels all over the world, and we're also on 30 different podcast networks, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and so many more. Check out our entire listing today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, Pop Culture Cosmo on Twitter. You'll get the listings right there for you. Get our schedule, and then you'll also be able to stay in tune with the latest news and trends in pop culture. Josh, gotta tell me what's going on, my friend, with all the latest and greatest with your great show, Topicocalypse, and everything else going on at Humanica Media.
Yeah, we had this past week, we had a couple interviews with some, one of them is a proclaimed post-hardcore band. The other was a melodic hardcore band. A lot of cores going on here, a lot of breakoffs of the old hardcore genre. But yeah, one of them was Keys. I talked to a couple of guys from Keys, and the lead singer of Keys is actually the nephew of Vic Fuentes from Pierce the Veil. So if you are into that scene, his nephew has a good band out there, a lot of good stuff. Then there was Stasis. I talked to Callum Reed of the band Stasis, and they're an up-and-coming melodic hardcore band from Canada, and they actually have some pretty good music. They have a new single out now. You can check out their music both on the podcast and on YouTube. So definitely check that stuff out. We'll have a new episode going up tomorrow, but I got to figure out which one it is. So I will get back to you on that.
Plus, you're also going to be on this week on Tuesday on the Podcast Radio Network, and check out their local listings for the available days and for the available time on that one. It's usually 7 p.m. Eastern, but you got to check it out just to make sure in case. Josh, before we head on out, my friend, I just want to give you the heads up. Did you get a chance to see the Anthem video that they debuted? BioWare and EA, Electronic Arts, debuted at PAX West. Garnered a little. It actually talked a little bit more in detail about footage. I actually showed a lot more footage and a lot more detail about a little bit about the story, a little bit about the combat, a little bit about where you're going, what you're doing. To me, it still looks like a Destiny type of thing. Still not 100% hooked on it. In fact, I really still kind of turned off. But that just may still be that may just still be me talking, because of the disappointment that was Mass Effect Andromeda. What are your thoughts? I know you got a chance to look at the video in regards to Anthem. Is it something that's now impressing you more, or is it something that still has you really just on the fence as far as a future for the game?
I'm not interested, honestly. It looks like a beautiful game, and I'm sure that it's going to find an audience somewhere. And this has nothing to do with Mass Effect for me. Honestly, I would love to go back and play Mass Effect Andromeda as the complete experience that it allegedly is now. But I don't know, like from BioWare, I just wanted another single player story game. They're saying that the story experience that we know from BioWare takes place in the city, and that's cool. But it seems like in order to go out and actually like experience the game for what it's meant to be, you have to go out and have a bunch of friends. But what happens, if you don't have friends that all have the game, you got to join. It's just that whole mechanic I don't like. I've never liked it in really any other game. So I'm it looks cool. Looks like it's the footage was beautiful. The gunplay was cool. I liked seeing that it reminded me a little bit of like a sci-fi, not what is a sci-fi, but like a different version of Monster Hunter in its own right. But I don't know, man. I'm not pulled into it, and I don't see that being a game on my purchase list. I'm curious to like watch videos of people playing it, but it's just not something that I see myself spending $60 on. What about you though?
Like I said, I'm still maybe a little bit biased about the tragedy known as Mass Effect Andromeda. I shouldn't be. I should try to give it a clean slate. I know that they are talked about. I know that BioWare has talked about after Anthem maybe reviving something in the Dragon Age or Mass Effect saga. I'm hoping for that, especially when it comes to Mass Effect.
Aren't
But
they already working on a Dragon Age though? From what the articles that have been coming out, allegedly there's a team working on it. I thought.
well, allegedly they are, but I just was told by Casey Hudson that they're working in something when it concerns one of those two projects. I'd probably say Dragon Age would be the bet that they would go to at first, because look, Mass Effect Andromeda came out in 2017, so of the actual IPs that they have, I would probably say maybe Dragon Age, a new version of that, would probably be the one that statistically they would go to first. But I think the one that they actually need to go to first is go back to maybe extending the story that we are familiar with when it comes to Mass Effect Andromeda, and a Shepard story from there. But needless to say, I need to have a better mind. I need to have a more open mind when it comes to Anthem, but I'm not 100% clicking with what I'm seeing so far, even in just it being there, just with what I'm seeing. I'm just not actually diving into it with the enthusiasm that I would like to have over a BioWare product. And this is the first time in a long time that I've had that issue where I wasn't excited about something coming up when it comes to BioWare, and that to me is kind of troubling that's the case. And maybe it's just because of what happened in Mass Effect Andromeda, but I'm hoping not. I'm hoping I can actually start seeing it with more open eyes and seeing the project as it is, and determining whether or not it's something I want to play or not coming up just before it comes out.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. There's a lot of reservation for me, and it's not just because of the whole EA Mass Effect debacle. It's really just the fact that I don't want to be forced to play with other people to experience the game, and it's just not everyone, if I want that, I'll go play Destiny, and I just don't have any desire to play Destiny, so I'm not gonna have any really desire to play Anthem, you know?
And with a game similar in its structure as Fallout 76, beating it to the punch, that may also kind of take that may also have Anthem take a kind of hit with people because they already will be invested in Fallout 76, Destiny 2 Forsaken, and other games of that ilk that have a multiplayer centric focus. So like you said, it's just something that maybe I need a little bit more footage, a little bit more time to take in. Maybe I'll actually connect with it at some point in time. But at this point in time, it looks like you and I are kind of shying away from Anthem at this point. What are your thoughts on Anthem? Are you excited for it? Did you get to see the footage from PAX West this past weekend? Is it a title that you're looking forward to getting in 2019? Or do you think it's something that you might want to stay away from for the fact that it might just not be looking good enough for you? Or do you still have a bad taste in your mouth from what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Any last thoughts on the way out, my friend?
Later this week, I do want to briefly discuss the Meg for the mega disaster that it was, but it was aware of itself. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
That we will. That'll be coming up on the Friday program, the PCC Multiverse, with our part 2 of our movie preview as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. I'll do that again because our door slammed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.